All right, so today what we have here out on my bench is a recent addition to the world of razor hounds. This is a finisher. You won't be doing any bevel setting on this or anything like that. This is the Vermio hone. I don't know if I'm even pronouncing that correctly. Vermio, I think is the spelling. There's a slurry stone. Get to that in a minute. This came to me. I bought a stone from someone on the internet, and he's a nice guy. He follows my YouTube channel, and he listens and he pays attention, obviously. And along with the stone I purchased, he sent me this stone, and he also sent me this really cool conical BBW. I'm not really sure. Haven't really explored that one yet. But this one was wrapped up, and he had it labeled surgical black, which I think was a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek joke kind of thing, because I have a surgical black video, surgical black Arkansas, that garnered some unwanted interest from one of those internet troll type people who just felt the need to come stomping in and shooting his mouth off about shit that didn't matter. Anyway, so when I contacted him, I was like, well, this thing is labeled surgical black, but what is it? And told me it was basically a stone found in a field. Didn't tell me too much more than that. I think he might have mentioned it was slate, and that he's been playing with it and he likes it. So I started messing with it, because I like to try new stuff sometimes, and the more you know, the less you know, actually. So I couldn't get a read on it at first, so I started lapping it. When I got it, the surface kind of looked like you see here. This is the bottom, and that kind of was, yeah, okay, I can probably use that, but I don't want to. So I lapped it. I still have one scratch in it. Can you see it? It's annoying the hell out of me, but I don't want to lap it anymore. You can't feel it. It's just a mark. There's nothing there. So first thing I noticed after it was dry, two things. There was a white outline from a puddle of water that had dried that just brushed away like dust. So that was interesting. Wasn't slurry. I mean, at the time I didn't have any slurry on the stone, and that just showed up. So I thought that was interesting. Another feel. Now, I can't, get what my finger here is sensing up into this camera, but it's almost waxy in a way. It feels almost self-lubricating or something. I don't know. So I looked around on the internet, and I couldn't come up with anything. There are some forms of slate, and, most slates have a very similar basic composition. The prolith, the stone that formed the slate, is critical in what the slate turns into exactly. And it seems that somewhere along the line, some of those slates, one mineral gets swapped out. I think it might have been the quartz, I don't know, for a type of talc. I don't know if that has anything to do with reality. It's the only thing I came up with that seemed plausible, because talc will have that lubricity to it. But who knows? Could be something else completely different I don't know about. I'm not a geologist. Excuse me. So, I put it out. I got it wet and start honing on it. And I say, all right, well, if this is slate, this feels nothing like slate. It's got a different type of feel altogether from, stones we know as slate. I've had a bunch, dragon tongues and those purple Welsh things and that green so-called 15K Welsh stone that is nowhere near 15K. Ashes, Thuringians, Vermont slates, all type of stuff, A lot of stones come through here. But anyway, the guy who sent me this, I know he's an avid honer, and he said he liked it. So, take that opinion and say, all right, well, someone's honing with this and he likes it, maybe it does something. So I honed a bunch of blades with it, and Yeah, I got a good shaving edge out of it. Not this like top flight J-net edge, but it was pretty good. Wasn't like an Escher edge. I find that my Escher edges are inherently sharper. Scratch patterns on this from this stone were not as fine as what I get from my Eschers. But yeah, I did get a good shaving edge from it. If I didn't have a house full of rocks and this is all I had to finish, I'd be shaving all right. I don't like to compare stones, but someone says, well, can you compare it to stone XYZ? I'm not going to get into naming the stone. Those of you who are buying stones right now probably know what I'm talking about. But, let's just say it's a stone you can get on an auction site. And I was like, well, there's no contest. I mean, that other stone, that chipped my edge. This left a very nice even scratch pattern. One or two rogue scratches, nothing going terminating at the edge. That could have been anything, not necessarily from the stone. Honing sensation is a little dead. It's not like really talking to me. That's okay. Value-wise, this stone right here up against that other stone. Well, just on the fact that, it left a nice edge and it didn't chip it to shit, that tells me this is a better idea. Who knows? Maybe I just had a really bad example of that other rock. Something tells me that's not the case, but without testing 500 examples, I guess I'll never know. And this is only one test on one of these, so that's making comparisons and putting things down as absolute fact. Scientific principle means testing more than one stone. This is just my look at this one stone here with this razor. Well, actually 4 or 5 of them, and I think it's a pretty good rock. Would I run out the door to buy one? Well, no, because if I pan the camera around, you'll see 20 J-nets and a whole host of other things. So I'm not doing that with any stone, really. But like I said, if I was just starting out and someone gave me one of these, I'd be doing pretty good. So anyway, the more I hone on this, I get like a interesting feedback here. It's not loud, it's not pronounced, it's not like working on a surgical black where you feel like you're on top of the hardest thing in the world. But there's no real sensation of grit or abrasion going on. Now there is a little tiny bit because there is a striation pattern, you can see it, but it's very fine. I recently read where someone said, well, the striation patterns look to be rather shallow to me. Well, I don't know how you judge that. I tell you what I can do on my scope is I can alter my lighting angle, and so the angle of incidence changes, the shadow lines from the striations will change, and I can actually compare one to the other, but to be quite honest, that is like the biggest pain in my ass. And I really don't have to go there. The stone either works or it doesn't. People who want to get into fetishizing everything, I mean, fine, go run around the internet and join your closed groups and pretend you know everything. Anyway, honing on this is pretty easy. It's very straightforward. Like I said, the scratch pattern seems very fine to me. Not quite where, I would get to with an Escher, but it's pretty good. But I didn't get a slurry stone with it. So I contacted my friend out on the internet there, and he told me a little bit more about the stone. So it wasn't, just a field rock. It is that it was found in a field, and it was found in Greece. And the guy who did it, I think, was farming. But it turns out that the guy has found a mother block of the stone, cut it up, and it's being sold here in the States by someone up in New England. So that's cool. And that guy might have a slurry stone. So I contacted him after a while because the whole concept of putting slurry on this was intriguing to me. So I got the slurry stone in the mail. Don't you know, it's got this big gash like in the side and this really nasty fissure that ran like, over here. See? So, you know, not being one who wants to put stuff like that, like underneath my razor, I put the chisel out on it and then bang, knocked it off and then lapped it out. And it gave me this interesting bottom with this rolled piece here, this rolled section, which actually turns out to be very good for raising slurry. Now, I don't know if you can see it yet. All right, so I'm not really working too hard here. You hear that sound, though? It's very interesting. You know, this is slate, as far as I can tell. It just doesn't act like any of the slate. Let me see if I can angle the light here. You can see some slurry. There you go, on the right side there. All right, I got some slurry done. Sorry, the lighting in here it's awful. So, you know, now that I have some slurry, now you can see it under the blade. Everything changes on the stone. It's no longer like a glassy kind of smooth. There's a resistance. It's not gritty like, you know, making slurry on a 1K or something. It's not like making slurry on an Escher either. But there is some hesitation now. There's less of a smooth, there's more of a jerky action. I feel like I'm kind of fighting things, so I have to work my attack a little bit differently. I'm not just skating over no resistance. And I feel like I'm doing a little bit more, you know, to the blade, which was my idea, because I kind of felt that the stone had a little bit more to give. And I thought if I could eke that out with using some slurry, that would be a good thing. So anyway, the feedback is a little disarming. The action across the stone, it kind of feels like a little stop jerky kind of feeling. Might throw off somebody who's new. Well, I'm not new, and it's throwing me off a little bit, but you know, my response to it is kind of automatic. So anyway, I work with this slurry thing, and I found a couple of things. Adding slurry to the process here does help. You will get a little bit more out of it, or at least that's how it seems to me. How much more? Not that much more. And this honing on slurry is slow as hell. So you got to put in, you know, some good time on it. You got to learn the stone, check your bevel, look at the scratch pattern, shave a couple of times, you know, write stuff down. Okay, you know, spent, you know, 3 minutes doing this. I got here, put in 10 minutes, see what you get there, and see what works for you. Like anything else, how good the blade was when you started has everything to do with how well it is, how good it is when you're done. But to give you an idea, you know, another stone, right, that I use is the Apache, right? Well, this is the Apache Healer. All right, and here's a little rubber stone cut from this piece. So I'm rubbing here. This is not slate, by the way. I put this more in the Jasper class, but it's another recent addition. So, and it happens to be out, and it's hard, and it's a finisher. So, there's my justification for putting it in the clip. But you'll notice something. Well, you notice nothing because nothing's happening. Right? I'm not going to keep going because trust me, I do that all day, and I'm not going to have slurry. There's nothing here. It's just water. So. What I can say is that this stone healer is harder than the Vermio, and what that means is very little. I'm just saying. Okay, but what I did was, right, I compared these two edges from these, right, to each other, and I got finer, albeit a little crisper, but notably keener finished edges off of the healer. Now, please do not think that because I just said that you know, the healer blew away the Vermio. Well, that's not the case. It really depends on what you want. Not everybody wants the same edge, and not everybody has access to the same stones, and so on and so forth. Honing shouldn't be like that anyway. You got to appreciate each stone for what it does. So Vermio, very nice stone. But being slate, you want to compare it to a slate, for example. Here's a slate, typical Escher from way early in the previous century. Slurry stone, real stone, labeled, right? That block is wet, and I don't feel like getting that label wet because it's not sealed. All right, so I'm just going to throw this down, move this out of the way, put my Escher down. And you see these things here, these little white stripes. That's from Slurry. That's dried Slurry. The white stuff I was talking about with the Vermio before is a completely different thing. All right, again, different sound. Slurry's coming up 1 through 3. Not too much effort there. This is a light green Escher. Borderline yellow, but it's not labeled with a color, but that's what it is. So now I'm honing here with Slurry on the slate, and the feeling is like amazing. Okay, this is like hard frozen chocolate melting ice, wet velvet type of sensation. And if I do a side-by-side comparison of striations from what I'm going to get here with the Vermio, the Escher is going to win the visual, and the honing sensation, the shaving sensation. Now this is the interesting part. The Vermio is going to give me an edge that's every bit as comfortable as the Escher, just not quite as sharp. I don't get the same cutting sensation on the whiskers. Again, it's more than sharp enough to shave with. You don't always, need or want, desire, prefer those edges that, I call them lightsaber edges. I mean, I like them, sure, and most of the time when I hone, that's where I go. But what I do isn't important. What you do in your home with your edges, that's what's important. And trying to do the same thing everybody else does, maybe that's a waste of time. Anyway, the honing sensation on the Escher, to me, way better. Right? The honing sensation on the healer is also better. Once, when you compare the slurried Vermio to the non-slurried healer, the honing sensation of the Vermio, not slurried, next to the healer, similar. Not exact, two different types of stone, but it's very nice to hone on. Like I said, it's a little dead, it's not really talking to me. The action's quite nice. And like I said, the edges are also quite good. And somebody called me up and said, hey, I'm thinking of buying the Vermio or maybe one of these other things I found on, an auction site. I'm going to tell them buy the Vermio, That's it. There's a lot of stones out there that I haven't tried. Maybe there's something better, but that other stone I was referring to, I'm not going to say it. I didn't like it, And this gave me a nice shaving edge. I didn't have to work at it. Like I said, I got no edge damage from it, and it's nice to shave on. And I don't think the cost is too high. I think it's comparable. Maybe it's comparable to the Healer. Not really sure. Like I said, I didn't buy it. But I did go to that site because I had to contact the guy to get a Slurry Stone. Slurry Stone price, I mean, yeah, that was good. Where'd that thing go? Anyway, oh, here it is. I mean, it's a pretty big piece of stone. You know, that was like $10. I don't know, maybe he did me a deal. I don't know what the story is. I didn't name drop or tell him like I was going to be testing it or anything, so I'm pretty sure it's just a $10 stone, which is pretty nice. The crack, I could have done without that, but it's a natural stone and stuff goes on. Can't be crying about that. I really think he should have looked at it a little bit before he sent it out, but maybe they're all cracked. What do I know? Fixing it was no big deal. And actually, the crack wound up helping me because it created that angle, which helps me slur it. Anyway, a little bit waxy feel. I don't quite understand. You know, lapping it was easy. Rolling the edges was easy. There were some distractions along the side that I had to relieve with the angling here. I don't know how good the stone is so far as it being, you know, like easy peasy to cut and turn into hones. Could be semi-problematic. It certainly alluded to that, but that doesn't mean anything to the end user. That's just, you know, hell for the guy cutting it. Yeah, it's slate. You can see over here. You can get a look at it. Got a little bit of that layering going on in there, and it's definitely not shell. Anyway, Vermio, good home. Nothing I would trade a JNet for or an Escher, but still a pretty good home. Gave me a pretty good shaving edge. I want to thank the guy who sent it to me. I know he's going to watch this, and I'm not going to name drop and whatever, so people don't go bugging him for free stones. And because he gave me this one, I'm probably going to piff this one out as soon as I figure out how to do that without, making it too difficult for everyone to, get involved with the piff. I might even do it right here on YouTube. Anyway, it's not a bad idea. I just thought of that. I have to look into it. Anyway, Vermio hone. Comes from grease. It's slate. It'll give you a nice shaving edge.